So how do I go about when I start drawing the real frames? This first shot, it's rather complex. It has a background and it has a certain speed to it. The characters are basically running through a forest, and I want to make sure that the background is kind of the same, so it feels like a pace through the same forest. Of course, you can do that frame by frame on a sheet of paper, and you can scan it later on, and you can do the forest very roughly. That's also okay, because when you work with storyboard, speed is very important to be able to get the frames quickly, and so roughness is rather to prefer rather than nice drawings. But for the sake of it, if we have a lot of time, we're in a production where we can afford to make nice drawings, I would have something like that. So I would measure my frame for the format that I want to work with, and I would place it in these layers higher up, so I can move through this scene and actually save frames moving this part through the whole forest, like that. And I will maybe start from here, and I have even there my sketch to start with, and I will clean it up later and do some shading for the forest, and then I will have my characters placing throughout the scene. And here is Peter, so here is basically the first frame, and I'll move this around here, and I'll just crop it. I'll crop it like that, image crop, and I will save that as a JPEG, save as, and here I've already saved my frames here in a folder what I've named thumbnails. So this is my first frame from the storyboard, from that Photoshop file, and here is my second frame, which comes from, I'm just gonna cancel it here, and I'm going to undo, which comes from me moving this frame in another direction, so I get another piece of this forest, or even here what I have the same character copied in different layers, and I'm just going to have even Peter there for the next frame, and I'll have something in the foreground just to create pace, and I'm just gonna do the same thing. I'm just going to crop the image to the side, to this size, and I'm going to save it as a JPEG too, which I already have over here. And you see that you can feel the pace of these frames if you scroll through them. And here I can have this dialogue. Come on, Pete, hurry. So these are basically 3 frames from the same shot, where the camera is the same and there is no cut. And that's how I signify that there is a continuity in the frame. So this frame and this whole sequence image is complete. So I'm going to go then to the next frame, this whole shot from the bird's eye view. And here is, I'm going to name it as number 2, and I'm going to have this frame here, and I'm not going to have the whole woods because I just want to signify that the characters are running through the woods and the camera is kind of still. So I usually always start with drafting this perspective thing, and then I'm drafting the characters where they are, and I'm adding the forest. And later on, if I have time and if the production allows it, I'm going to put some shading on it just to have a nicer composition to suggest the lighting a little bit and how the forest frames this composition. And that is going to be my image number 5. So the numbers I give for my images here is just for me, so I can follow some order. Now these images later on can be renamed, or they can be changed, because the director might want you to flip some shots here and there, because when you get to the first draft of your composition, of your sequence as a storyboard, and you put it in the animatic, then you can see the flow of this animation, of this storyboard, if that works or if you need to change it. So then here I want to see, I have Peter approaching the branch, but before that it feels like I need to have some more speed. I need to have them running more. So this is something I see when I work within this process. So what I did here is I added another frame here where Peter is running. So what I did is just I took a piece of the woods, and here I have Peter running in 2 poses, and one of these poses is when he's running forward, and I just copy this layer and I just make the other pose. Very simple, just to signify that there is speed to it. And then I have another frame where I have the same poses. I just turned his head towards the dragon. I just want to amplify danger. And then I color these frames. Here is for this frame, and I close and open layers, and I get this layer where is the background, and for the next frame I just move it a little bit, and eventually what I get, if I see these frames, I get the sense of speed. Now again, things can be really, really rough, and the character doesn't need to look exactly like this character. It can be rough because, again, the most important is that you can draw these frames quickly. You can have a speed in the production. And that's how I actually go about through every single shot of those shots, and just create a couple of images. Like this one, for example, here I have signified that we follow with Peter forward. And the frames that I'm doing in the storyboard is basically something like that. I draw this one and then move the background towards Peter, and then I have the other frame where I just draw these 2 frames with Peter. I have the background moving. And now I can cut to this image and even have the dragon approaching. If you want to be better in the storyboard, you can even have the dragon flapping his wings for 2 frames. That's gonna make it even better. And here I have the close-up and the Peter falling, and now you see that the camera is going forward, and we have Ingrid in the same way with 2 frames running, and again the same woods. So basically I go through every frame and break it down, and I want to show you another frame that I've done here. For example, this frame when Ingrid stops, and here I only change the eyes of the character, because you'll say like, why the eyes are important. Well, that's because it signifies direction, and it gives the mood, the emotions to what's going on in the scene. So I have this frame where she's looking up, and that's basically the whole shot. So you want to pick up all these small details things that you can, things that will enrich your storyboard, to put it in and make your storyboard alive. So when the viewer starts watching, they can get a clear sense of what the sequence and the scenes are about. And next, I'm going to show you the whole sequence edited in the animatic, so you can see the ending, how this process ended.